Thanks, everyone. Coming back for another segment of the MCR Mac and Me. I'm TJ, and in this segment, I wanted to touch on something the state of Louisiana has just recently voted on. And the reason why I find this of such interest, and when you go back a couple months, you had different Republicans in the House and whatnot throw out the possibility, speculate, whatnot about a national divorce. For quite a few years now, we've heard about sanctuary cities or even states regarding this or that political issue. Whether it be cities with sanctuary cities with illegal aliens, or sanctuary cities with the Second Amendment. And I've never, and Mac and I have talked about this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mac, but when we talked about the sanctuary cities, we weren't entirely comfortable with that concept because it just indicated you made a law we don't like, so we're going to ignore it.
Yeah, pretty much. I said that real early on in a video that we did 4 years ago, that I wasn't keen on the idea of any sanctuary type places. But as we've progressed, in the county I live in, the sheriff says, shove your red flag up your fat derriere, Gretchen. He's not going to enforce it. Of course, that will just bring in the local police and the state police. But the sheriff claims he's going to stand in their way. The whole idea of we don't like that law. And you know what? We're not talking, in many cases, we're not talking about new laws. We're talking about established laws, like giving driver's license to people who are in the country illegally.
Well, I'd like to talk about what Louisiana's done.
Okay.
And you could think of it as perhaps a sanctuary state, perhaps. But what they've done is, and both houses in Louisiana have passed what is referred to as SCR-21. The state senator Stuart Cathy and a co-author, Representative Ray Garofalo, and then there was also an Alan Seabaugh who pushed it in the state house floor. Okay. What they've done in writing, and I researched this SCR-21. I downloaded it and printed it out, and it was like 5 pages of a PDF. And what I find very interesting about this SCR-21 is, without getting too much into the weeds, first of all, I would really encourage everyone to read this just from a historical perspective. I'll explain why here. But the very first sentence of this SCR-21 reads, "To affirm the sovereign right of Louisiana to nullify unconstitutional acts of the federal government." Federal government, whether it be some department secretary or...
10th Amendment guarantees that right.
Well, they do reference the always forgotten and glossed over 9th and 10th Amendments. This SCR-21 specifically mentions the 9th and 10th Amendment. And I don't, like I said, I don't want to get into the weeds, but they reference different court cases and statements made by founding fathers and previous Supreme Court decisions where basically it reinforces the... And when this nation was becoming a nation with the 13 original colonies, Thomas Jefferson, it's reported, said, well, because states were worried about a federal government, out of control federal government, and Thomas Jefferson made, and they reference this in the SCR-21 where Thomas Jefferson, and I'm going to paraphrase here, if they do something unconstitutional, ignore it, and I'm paraphrasing that, but by all means, read SCR-21 if you want the exact verbiage.
No, and you've read this, I have not, and I'm going to if I can find it, I'll put it in the description box for everyone to read. Now, are we talking about things like the EPA, the Out of Control Environmental Protection Agency, where they basically, without Congress, they sidestep Congress, create their own laws, and give fines and taxes to people with no authority to do so? Are we talking about that kind of thing? Or are we talking about properly passed laws in the House, Senate, signed by the president?
I get the impression in reading this, if a law comes down from the federal government and the state of Louisiana takes a vote and says, you know what, this is unconstitutional. We believe this law to be unconstitutional. Therefore, federal government pound sand. You know.
Okay. So if they were tomorrow to just say, we no longer want the Bill of Rights, and it passed in the House and the Senate, and the president signed it, that would be an unconstitutional law, obviously.
And Louisiana,
that's the kind of thing they're talking about.
That's pretty much what they're talking about. Louisiana says pound sand at that point. Okay, and what they do, and this is where I say I don't want to get into the weeds, but they reference. I'll try to keep this as simple as possible. Supreme Court case Marbury versus Madison. Then they reference a 1879 decision ex parte Siebold. The Supreme Court ruled an unconstitutional law is void and is no law. An offense created by it is not a crime. Conviction under it is not merely erroneous, but it is illegal and void and cannot be a legal cause of imprisonment. So what Louisiana has done is they have cited specific cases and situations which they feel validate the existence of SCR-21. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can think of a few right away, but I don't know. You think this will spread to more states? Because it seems sound to me.
Well, that is the hope. That is the hope. And I mentioned Thomas Jefferson, and SCR-21 contains a Thomas Jefferson quote. So, and this will only take 30 seconds, if that. Whereas, as Thomas Jefferson explained in the Kentucky Resolutions of 1798, and this is where they quote Thomas Jefferson, whensoever the general government assumes undelegated powers, its acts are unauthoritative, void, and of no force. He also says, but where powers are assumed which have not been delegated, a nullification of the act is a rightful remedy that every state has a natural right in cases not within the compact to nullify of their own authority all assumptions of power by others within their limits. And that's kind of where it swerves into the 9th and 10th Amendment.
Well, but let me ask you this question. Have you ever heard this expression? It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission?
Yeah, I've heard it before.
Okay. I kind of think that's how the Democrats operate. We'll just go ahead and do it, and then we'll let it go to the court. So 4 or 5 years down the road, after we've imposed this on so many people, then it'll get kicked out of the court, but we will have accomplished the 4 or 5 years it takes to get to the court.
I'd like to read the last couple sentences of SCR-21, and then we can wrap up.
Okay.
The last couple sentences read, whereas these sacred rights shall not be infringed upon any action of the federal government purporting to wield any undue authority. Therefore, be it resolved that the legislature of Louisiana does hereby affirm the sovereign right of Louisiana to nullify unconstitutional acts of the federal government. So yeah, what they're doing is they're using previous law and to basically say we'll be a sanctuary state in any unconstitutional law you try to throw on us. Now,
well, the question, I mean, you and I can decide something's unconstitutional. That doesn't make it so. So this looks like a lot of time in court.
Well, what it does appear is if the state in their legislature decide it's unconstitutional, you can say that was voted on in a democratic manner. Okay, yeah. So I wouldn't exactly think of it as some willy-nilly disregard of any law coming from the federal government, you know. But my thought is, if the day should come that Louisiana does hold firm on this SCR-21, what does the federal government do? Send in troops, send in federal agents, uh, and
Well,
what happens
John
then?
Kennedy did that to enforce integration.
Yeah, I mean, is that where the Civil War then begins, or what? You know?
Yeah, I hate keep going back to Civil War because I just feel like with every passing day, I'm concerned, is today the day?
Well, I mean, or think of it this way: Louisiana's drawn the line in the sand now.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
so and yeah, the question is, will more states have the intestinal fortitude to follow?
Well, Michigan won't be one of them.
Well, yeah, I was just getting ready to say the exact same thing. Won't be Michigan, you know. Michigan will be yes sir, 3 bags full. That's all I got for this one. Uh, any final thoughts there?
I hope they're successful, and I'd like to see more states follow suit. You know, there are people out there willing to die for their rights. I just wonder if the people in the government are willing to die to take them away.
Yeah, real. You know what? Yeah, yeah. So okay, we'll call this one a wrap, and catch you in the next one. As always, be safe, watch your six, and don't tread on me.